I found out that the man who always patronizes me is having an affair with my own wife. I have been selling building materials for over a decade now. It is a business I inherited from my late father, and I have managed to grow it, despite the ups and downs in the economy. There are days when sales are slow, but there are also days when big contracts come in, and I make enough to cover the bad days. In all, I cannot complain. The business feeds my family, pays the children's school fees, and keeps the lights on. For the past 2 years, there has been this particular customer. He always buys goods worth millions: cement, rods, paints, and even tires. Whenever he shows up, I know that it's going to be a good day. At first, he would come once a month, but then it became more frequent, and soon, we were almost like friends. Whenever he visited the shop, we would talk about business, family, and life in general. He seemed like a man who was always on the move, constantly involved in one construction project or another. I respected him, and I was grateful for his patronage because, truth be told, without his regular purchases, the business might not have been as stable as it was. One day, after a long day at the shop, I came home to find my wife acting a bit strange. She was distracted, and whenever I tried to talk to her, she would give short answers or pretend to be busy. I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe she had a rough day with the kids or was just tired. But then, over the next few weeks, I started noticing other changes in her behavior. She became distant, always on her phone, and would sometimes leave the house without telling me where she was going. I became suspicious, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. After all, this was the woman I loved, the mother of my children. We had been together for years, and I trusted her completely. Still, something didn't feel right, and the more I tried to ignore it, the more it nagged at me. Then one evening, as I was closing up the shop, I saw something that shook me to my core. My customer, the one who had been buying millions worth of goods from me, was standing across the street, talking to my wife. They were too far for me to hear their conversation, but the way they stood close, the way she smiled at him, it was not the kind of smile a wife gives to a stranger or even a friend. My heart raced, and I felt a knot form in my stomach. I didn't confront them immediately. Instead, I watched as they talked for a few more minutes before my wife got into his car, and they drove off together. My mind went blank. I couldn't think straight. A part of me wanted to chase after them, to demand an explanation, but another part of me was too afraid to know the truth. When I got home later that night, I asked my wife where she had been. She lied. She told me she had gone to see a friend. I didn't say anything, but inside, I was boiling with anger and confusion. Over the next few days, I tried to act normal, but the image of my wife with my customer kept haunting me. I decided to do something I never thought I would do. I started following her. It wasn't long before my worst fears were confirmed. I followed her one afternoon when she said she was going to the market. Instead, she went to a hotel where my customer was waiting for her. I couldn't believe my eyes. My wife, the woman I had spent years building a life with, was having an affair with the man who had become my biggest customer. I felt like my whole world was crashing down around me. I didn't know what to do. Should I confront him? The man is not just any customer, he is someone who had been keeping my business afloat. If I confronted him, I could lose his patronage, and that would be a huge financial blow. But how could I continue to do business with a man who is sleeping with my wife? I spent days thinking about it, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't come up with a solution. I felt trapped. My children needed to go to school, and the business is our only source of income. I needed his money, but I couldn't stand the thought of what is happening behind my back. Eventually, I confronted my wife. She denied it at first, but when I told her I had seen them together with proof, she broke down and confessed. She told me it had been going on for a few months and that she is sorry. She begged for my forgiveness, but I couldn't even look at her. The betrayal cut too deep. I don't know what to do. Should I confront the man and risk losing everything? Should I try to save my marriage and pretend like nothing happened? Or should I walk away from it all and start over? I am seeking advice. This is a matter of my family and my livelihood, and I cannot afford to make the wrong decision. What would you do if you were in my shoes? What would you do?